So today I'm going to be showing you how to script in BedWars. And if you're thinking I'm talking about the bad kind of scripts, you're wrong. No, I'm talking about map scripts. Yeah, custom game modes. Have you ever had like an awesome idea for a game mode that should be in BedWars and wish the devs would just make it already? You know, maybe a better hide and seek, maybe a prop hunt, maybe like dodo races. All these different game modes that are possible in BedWars right now. And today I'm going to be showing you how everything works. But before I do, please do me a solid. Support this channel by hitting that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, because it helps a lot. So the first thing you need to do is go over to docs.easy.gg, and I will link this site in the description below. So if you don't have it easily later, just go back to the video. It's going to be in there. So you're going to see this whole scripting documentation that they built, and it's really solid. Honestly, I've been using it a lot, and I was able to learn this system very, very quickly. I know, I think I'm about like 60% there, enough to be able to give you a decent tutorial on how to set everything up, because I can do whatever I want in the game now for the most part. So we got all kinds of stuff here. We can mess with abilities. We have a whole block service. So if you want to place blocks, destroy blocks, all that kind of stuff. We got a combat service. So if you want to be able to like cause damage to certain players, maybe there's players near fire and you want to start them on fire, things like that. We got a disaster service, so you can, do tornadoes and such. They actually have a data store service as well, which is pretty nutty. What this allows you to do is persist data in your map. So imagine you wanted a leaderboard. So how many people won races in your map, maybe a kill tracker in your map, maybe a PvP, kind of wins, losses, all that kind of stuff. It's actually really cool. They got generator services, so you can mess with generators. Gravity, you can, change the player's gravity, which is really cool. You got inventory services for being able to like do stuff with inventory. You can give people items and such. Item service for just dropping items. So say you want to do like randomize, special drops or lucky blocks around the map, you could do so. They've got a match service for being able to track the state of the match or even end the match if, someone got the most kills. You've got a message service, which, you could use to broadcast stuff, model service, mount services. So if you want to do dodos, maybe dodo races, you can equip dodos to people. Player service, of course. They got parts, particles, prompts. These are really cool. Shops, sounds you could do. So, if you want a bunch of explosions, you could do that. Status effects, you've got vehicles. So, if you want to like give them helicopters. You got teams, so you can control what players, are on each team or even move them around team to team. And then you got a UI service for being able to put like labels over stuff. On top of that, you can, detect. These are all these different events here. These are things like if you want to be able to detect when someone places a block, breaks a block, maybe causes damage to something, maybe dies. Not going to go through all this documentation right now. Expect lots of videos for this in particular, but let's dive into it, because what we're going to do today is we're going to be updating one of my hide and seek maps with some scripts, and I'm going to be walking you through the entire process of automating a hide and seek match. What does that mean? When you hit that start match, typically speaking, you got to go and like set everyone to the right teams. It's kind of a pain, dude. I don't know how many times I've had to type in like, set team, Davey was taken to red, and then I got to set all these spectators to, the right team, and then I got to give myself a rage blade, and then I got to tell them they got 3 minutes to hide. We're going to automate all this stuff right now. We're going to automate everything. We're even going to give like status updates to, for how many hiders are still in the match, all that stuff. Here's the deal. There's a couple ways you could do scripts. If you want to make a custom game mode that maybe doesn't have beds, maybe you want to do like a gun game or something that doesn't have beds, you could do that, and you could do it based on a timer. So you end the match after a certain amount of time or end the match after a certain amount of kills, things like that. So if you want to make a custom game mode, go over to create a game, and then over here under selected game mode, you're going to notice that there's a sandbox mode down here, and what that's going to give you is just an absolutely clean map with no like beds or anything like that. And the other nice thing about that too is you could like, maybe you want to persist matches, and I'll do a tutorial on this later on how to reset up a match. So for example, say you have a snipers versus runners map, or like a maze map, or a king of the hill, or like a PvP arena or something like that, and you don't want someone to like accidentally kill you or beds break or something, and then you get disconnected. This is the map because it actually has a lot more flexibility for all that kind of stuff. But if you're gonna do a basic hide and seek map, you could pretty much go to your typical maps here. I'm gonna load up an existing map that I own. All right, so some of you should recognize this map. This is my circus hide and seek map. It's pretty popular. So we're gonna script this, and we're gonna totally automate it. And you'll notice there's a scripts button right here. This is where we're gonna be adding scripts. And up here is also another way for you to access scripts, is just through the host panel, typical fashion, right? And you can ignore this entire screen. Now, best practice is gonna tell you to use VS Code. It's gonna be 10 times better. You can back up your scripts. You're not gonna lose stuff. Otherwise, you can pretty much ignore this. Like, this is roadmap stuff. Under sync is pretty much the VS Code stuff, so you can ignore this. So pretty much these two screens you can ignore. The main screen you're going to be on is the console and then actual script editing. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here for new script. You're going to name it whatever you want. I'm just going to call this main because I only create one script for my game modes. I don't think you need more of them. You could make more of them. I don't think it's necessary for basic stuff, at least. Now, again, proper coding is going to be using VS Code. This is going to make a lot of developers cringe. You have a couple problems in this, like you're typing in code and you want to be able to search for code. You can't do it. You also can't undo. So if you screw something up, maybe like erase something, you're not going to be able to undo and be able to recover that. So at least use Roblox Studio, then copy paste into here. All right, so now that we have our main script set up, you need to see these two things. One is anytime you put something in, you need to save it, and then you can stop and start your script. So anytime you're changing stuff, you want to just stop the script and then rerun it. First order of business, anytime I'm writing some kind of project or script, I always like to put a bunch of notes. Anytime you're working on some kind of script, like, you know, I want to be able to, at the start, do this and this and this and this and this. It's a sequence of events. It's a sequence of code. It breaks down your code in bite-sized chunks, so it's not so, like, overwhelming. If you didn't do that, then it would be so overwhelming if you're just doing things, like, one at a time, and you're going to be like, dude, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. This is all about planning. You're not going to write a single line of code yet until you think you've got everything covered from start to finish of a match. Now, if you want to put notes in here that don't actually run as scripts, like you just want to be able to put notes, this is a Lua thing. Always start with 2 dashes, and that's just basically going to mean it doesn't run as code. It's just a comment, okay? So like if you have like a to-do, you can put like a to-do, I need to, you know, drink some water, whatever. So we know for a fact that when the match starts, we want to broadcast that match is starting. And then we're going to want to set the teams automatically. The seeker is going to be red team and hiders on blue team. So we're going to set those. And then we're also going to want to break Bloob's bed. And then we're going to want to set everyone's health accordingly. So like set seeker HP to 1000 HP and then set hiders to 1 HP. And then we're going to give seeker a rage blade, fast run speed, good jump height, balloons, and telepearls, right? Because we want them to be OP. And then we're going to start some like a 3-minute timer for people to hide, let them know how long they have. And then once they reach 2 minutes, remind. Once they reach 1 minute, remind them. And then when it's time, let them know the seeker is coming for them. Now, we could put in code that says if they die, just like to reset their team. So like a player dies during this 3-minute time limit. I mean, I'll do this later. So this is going to be a to-do. Set it so if someone dies on accident during the hiding timer, respawn them. And then we want to do a check. So if I find someone, announce who was found. And yeah, for ending, if all hiders are found, announce seeker wins. Okay, so this is our to-do list, all right? So let's go and start with this first one, which is match starts. Broadcast that the match is starting. So to do that, we need to go over here to the match start events. So there's services, events, objects, types, and utilities. Utilities you can pretty much ignore because these are just basic like Roblox functions or functionality, and most of these things are supported by default. And then types are going to be things like, so if you're trying to figure out like what kind of item types, so like different blocks or rage blade, like if you're trying to give someone something, these are all the different item types you can spawn. So if you remember like /spawn commands, these are those like items for that command. And then same for sounds, you can get all kinds of stuff there. Projectiles. Objects are going to be things like an entity, a block object, a match stage is an object, a team is an object, a player is an object, things like that. And then you've got events, which are things that happen that you want to trigger. So someone kills something, so someone destroys a block, someone does some damage to someone, things like that. So anytime there's an event that you want something else to happen as a result of that action. And then services are going to be things like, anything to do with blocks. If you want to have like methods to control blocks. So if you want to place a block, remove a block, things like that. So for this, we know it's an event, right? A match was started. So we're going to grab this code and just copy and paste from their example. The devs are awesome about this. There are tons of examples in here. So we're going to put match start. We can get rid of the sound service because we don't need that. We're going to broadcast. If you forget how to do it, just go to the reference documents. And then we're going to type in match is starting. All right, so we got that one. That's done. Now we need to set the teams automatically. Seeker's going to go to the red team, and hiders are going to go on the blue team. So to do this, we're going to do two things. One is we're going to call set teams, and we're going to create a function that is right above called set teams. Anytime you're writing functions like this, you do want to make sure that it's above. The function's got to be declared above where you're calling it. Let's put in a wait here so that it's not too fast. And then, so wait 5 seconds. And then we're going to broadcast that we're setting teams. That way we know it's working. And then up here, we're going to need to identify which teams are which. So we're just going to put a couple variables up here. So this is going to be the seeker team. This is going to be the hiders team. And that way we only need to set it once. And I've already written this, so I'm just going to kind of put it down here. I'll explain what I'm doing. But right here, you can see I'm doing for I. So this is a basic for loop. You could look up any Roblox Lua for loop. This is pretty much how you're going to go through a table. So what we're doing here is we're using the team service to get all the teams currently in the game. So this is just going to return red team, blue team, yellow team, green team, because I have a squads map. And then what we're doing here is we're checking the team name. So I'll show you that reference real quick so you know what we're doing. So we're using the team services right here, and they have some of this coded here already too. You can, kind of like right here, it's already an example here. You can just pull that. But what we're doing is we're getting all teams. It's returning a team object, and it's going to give us a name, property, or an ID one. So we can get the name or the ID. We can also get all the players on that team later. It's going to be helpful. But right here, all we're doing is literally just getting the teams. And if it's the red team, which is the seeker team, then we're going to set the seeker to that team. And then if it's the blue team, then we're going to set the hiders to that team object. So that way we're tracking these objects throughout the rest of the experience. Also, it makes it so I don't have to do this loop ever again. I could just say, I could call the seeker team, I can call the hiders team, because the code already knows which team I'm talking about. And then we're going to get every single player that's currently in the game and set them to the right team. So to do that, you can go to the player service, and they have a get players function that returns all players in the server. You could literally just copy and paste this if you want, but I've already written this, so it's real easy. This code's been tested, so I'm just going to do it this way. So for I player in iPairs, basically we're just going to get each player. And what this says is if the player's the host, because there is a match service to check to see if it's the host, then we're going to set me to seeker. Otherwise, set the player to hider. So we only have one seeker currently, which is going to be the host. You're going to have to manually do commands if you want other seekers and such. This is just intended for a single seeker, which is pretty common in my opinion. And then what we want to do is we want to destroy their bed, right? So there's a team service here for getting the team's bed, and then we're going to get the position of it and then destroy it. So we're going to type in local team bed, or even hider bed, equals team service dot get team. Make sure it's case sensitive, by the way. That's why it's best to copy and paste usually, but it is case sensitive. And we already have hiders as a team object here, so we're good with that. And then we're going to say if hider bed, that way we can check to see if it exists, then we are going to destroy it. So how you do that is you go to the block service dot destroy block. I'm going to show you that real quick. So if you go to the block service, there is a destroy block option, and it just needs a vector3 position. Vector3 position, it's going to be passed to us through getting the location of the bed. So we don't really need to set that. We don't have to do any question of that. We already know because the bed exists. What we're going to do here is if hider bed, then block service destroy block, and it's going to be at the hider beds dot position, because this is a block being returned. All we need is the block's position, which is a property of the block. Go down to block object, and it shows it's going to give us a position. So I could use any of these with that block that I just got. And then after that, we are going to broadcast message service dot broadcast hider bed destroyed. Okay. You would typically want to test all this stuff, by the way, while we're going. I haven't been doing any of that. So let's go through this. We do break the bed, and we're going to set the seeker's HP to 1000, and we're going to set the hiders to 1 HP. And how we're going to do that is we're going to add a player settings function. I mean, you don't have to do functions like I am, by the way. You could run it all in the same match start thing. I just like functions because it's just easier to read. So we're going to do a function for player settings, and always add that in there before you start writing any code. So we're going to do something similar right here. We're going to do a loop through all the players, because we need to affect every player for our settings, right? So we have this. We're going to say if the player is the host, we're going to do something. And if they're not, then we're going to do something. So because we're going to be setting max health, it's kind of tricky. This one's tricky because it's through an entity. I kind of wish they would just do it for like player register max health or something, because you could change their speed and stuff through the player object. So like right here, if you go to the player object, you can set a bunch of stuff like their speed, their jump height, all that kind of stuff, but they can't set HP. And the reason is they do it through an entity object instead. How we're going to do this is we are going to get the entity for a player. And so we're going to, right above this for the loop, we're going to get the entity for every single object that comes through here, because we know they're all going to be players. So we're going to say the entity equals players, and then we're going to get entity. This is a function for the players. And then now we can mess with the HP. And so to do that, we're going to do something like this. Basically, entity set max health to 1,000. And then for these guys, we're going to set their HP to 1. Now, we also want to give them stuff. And to give players things in their inventory, you just need the player object and then whatever items you want to give. So let's go over to the inventory service, and this is where you can see how to give players items. So you can see right here, there's a function under the inventory service called give item, and you need to assign the player that you're going to give the item to. There's the item type, which I'll show you in a second, and then the amount, and then you can do a play world effect. We don't need to do any of that. We don't really want to spam the thing saying, yeah, they gave, arrows, gave this, gave that. We don't care about that. And so the item type has to be through this list I showed you earlier. So you can give them anything that's in this, and I'll show you how that's written out right now. So if you go over to the host, which is our seeker, we're going to give them a rage blade, and we give them one of them. So it's going to be player. Item type is rage blade. We're also going to give them 9,000 balloons, because why not? This is just kind of code I already have for some of my other scripts. And then we're going to give them a bunch of telepearls. So I want to set their speed as well. And to do that, we can go over to the player object. And in the player object, we can do a bunch of stuff like registering their speed multipliers. This is cool, so you can like increase the player speed, because we want players, the seekers, to be able to like chase hiders down real easily. We're also going to give them a jump height multiplier eventually. This doesn't work currently, unfortunately, so I did report that to the devs. We're also going to register additional air jumps. Now this right here, the ID for the string, that's just whatever you want it to be. That's just so it's an identifier to be able to like reference it. So if you want to remove that particular thing, you can do so. You can remove it. Let's go ahead and add these. So I already have these written out for ease. So right here, what I did was I registered speed multiplier for 2, so it's going to be 2 times the speed. This is just my identifier. Again, this is arbitrary. It could be whatever you want it to be. Register additional air jumps. I gave them, like you could basically like jump 5 times. Jump height multiplier, this is not working currently, but once it does, this should be pretty nice, because then they can jump really high. We're going to just add something just so we know things are working. Right here, we're just going to say player config complete for the broadcast. So we're just going to add a broadcast to that. Next up, we need to work on the timers. So let's go and work on some timers. And how we're going to do that, we're going to create another function called set timers. And we're going to put a function here, function set timers. And this is going to be fun. So we're just going to wait a couple seconds. So just, because things are kind of flying with the script too fast, I just want to pause it a little bit. And we're going to use the message service again to broadcast that players have 3 minutes to hide. Because, as soon as the match starts, they have to go hide. We're also going to set it so that the timer is 3 minutes. So how you could do that, you could do timer equals 3 times 60. So that's obviously 3 minutes. And then we're going to put in a while loop that says while the timer is greater than 0, it's going to continue to do this loop. And then at the bottom here, we're going to continue to subtract from this. How you're going to do that is timer negative equals 1. And what that's going to do is it's going to subtract 1 from this value. And then up here, we're going to add in a sound. So we're going to put like a stopwatch ticking sound for this. So if you come over here, there's a sound service. And this is just polished. If you want to be able to add like really cool sound effects, it's fun. So there's a sound service. You could do like play sound here. You could do it as a position too. So maybe if you want to have like a global sound that plays from a distance or a particular location, maybe like if you're trying to do like a haunted mansion or something, maybe you have like, crows off in the distance and, crow animation flying out of that or something. You can do all that kind of stuff. But we don't need the vector 3. It's optional value. We're going to bring that over here again. And then we're going to play a stopwatch sound each time. There is a stopwatch ticking object type. or sound type. So, and then we're gonna get rid of this. So if you go over to types and then click on sound type, you're gonna see a whole list of sounds that you can play. Lots and lots of sounds. It's really cool. And then in this while loop, we do want to wait 1 second because it is a clock. So it's only going to run 1 second at a time. Actually, let's put this at the end here. So if timer is exactly at the 2-minute mark, then we are going to broadcast a reminder. Just copy and paste that for ease. You have 2 minutes remaining. And then we're going to put some else ifs in here because we got a bunch of other reminders. And then 1 minute left to hide. We'll do a 30-second. This has got to be equals. Don't forget your actual conditions here. And this will say 30 seconds. And then if the timer is down to 15, less than or equal to 15, then we're going to say toString because it can only work on strings, not numbers. And then we're just going to put timer. So we're going to literally just put the timer, the amount of seconds left, ticking over and over. And so it's going to convert a number, which is currently the timer is a number, right? Anytime you see the quotation marks, it's a string. So it's going to do timer, and it's going to tick down. And then once we're at, say if timer equals 1, then we're going to broadcast. Ready or not, here I come. And then we're also going to do a dragon roar so you know that it's time. Actually, let's put the ticking above this too because we don't want it ticking after the fact. All right, so we have the 3-minute timer. We got all these reminders in. Freeze hiders after 3 minutes into seeking so they stop running away. We probably won't do that right now. Let's make that into a to-do. Someone announced who was found, so we do need to do that. So how we do that is there's an event for entity death. I like to keep all my events at the bottom, by the way. We're going to get rid of all this stuff that's inside of it. We need to get the player for the entity, and we're going to make sure the player is not null. So if there's no, maybe someone killed a dodo bird entity, this is going to throw errors if we don't do a check to make sure it's not nil. We're literally just going to do a broadcast of who was found. So if they died, they pretty much were found or is out. So we're going to do a message service dot broadcast name, not their display name. You could do either name, which is their username, or their display name. Message service dot broadcast player name. And this is is a concatenation. So this is ultimately 2 strings we're putting together. And then was found. And then we could do something also where it checks the number of players. And I already have a script for this, so I'm just going to put it out. We're just doing the same team service thing. So every single time someone dies, we loop through pairs of service, like the team service, to get all the teams. We see if the team's name is hiders.name. Then we're going to check to see how many players are still on that team. This is just basically a count. So anytime you have a hashtag, it's the count. That's going to return a number. So number of hiders is the count, and then, or the count inside the table. And then if number of hiders is greater than 1, then there's a certain number of hiders that are remaining. Otherwise, actually, if it's greater than or equals 1, because we might just have 1 hider left. And then else, if number of hiders is 0, then the seeker won, right? Now, as a separate video, I'm going to be adding to this the ability to restart the match. The only downside is I can't regenerate the map. So if the seeker is destroying the map to find hiders, that's going to be problematic for me because, I can't reconstruct the map. We got another bacon in here. If everything goes well, then it should just work. Hopefully we don't have any issues in here. In the console, if there is an error, if for some reason anything doesn't run, you do want to check the console here for any errors. So if you have script errors, definitely check in here. It might be an issue with your code. Well, let's go ahead and try this. Let's go ahead and stop it. Let's save it. We already saved it. So let's go ahead and run it. And we're going to try this out. Now, you'll notice no one's on teams currently. So if this goes well, then everyone should get assigned to their teams correctly. And the blue team's bed should get destroyed. Starting match, and nothing happens. So main script cannot run. So this is a good sign. Essentially what's happened is bad things. So there's a code error in here that I need to check. All right, I already found it. It's inside my timers. I can't believe I didn't see this. So when I was doing my else ifs, I forgot to end this properly. If you remember, I was kind of speeding along on this and I forgot to put the thens. That's why this didn't work. Now, in the situation where you're testing stuff and you don't want to have to keep restarting, this is good that I actually had this issue. You're going to want to just do this. So we only run the code when it starts the match. So all you got to do is just pull this out and put it down here because we're just going to call the same things as if the match started. Go ahead and save it, stop it, run it, and now it's working. So Teams are set. There we go. My health setup was correct. You can see I've got my balloons. I've got my telepearls. My HP's going good. You can see player config. You have 3 minutes to hide, so this player should be hiding. And we need to make sure that their blue bed was destroyed. It doesn't look like it got destroyed, so we're going to have to look into that, why that's happening. Bed remove. 2 bed 2. All right, they should not have a bed anymore. That script does work, by the way. I think it's just this particular map because those aren't the default beds, so the IDs are named weird. So it's not like recognizing it for some reason. It's kind of weird. About to hit the 1 minute mark. Now, of course, anytime you're doing this, by the way, you do want to do some settings still here. Like, you don't want to have some of these other settings. Like, you're not going to want ore. You're not going to want titans. You're not going to want, you know, you still have to do all these. You don't want recalling. You don't want guardians, things like that. All right. And you also only want to have PvP. So it's just your typical settings for the match. Unfortunately, they do not have a way to do that currently as far as setting stuff for the match through code. You still have to have the host panel stuff. All right. It says I have a minute left to hide. Then it's going to move to 30 seconds. There's our 30-second timer. You're also going to want to still hide their names, by the way, name tags. All right, here's our timer. Here we go. 3, 2, ready or not. You hear the dragon roar, dude? So cool. Ready or not, here I come. So that's perfect. And then if I kill this guy, build me to work was found. Seeker wins. Boom. Script works. So at this point, you could decide, you know, if you want to kick people or whatever, but you can see it worked. Like, we're all done. Now, if we do sandbox mode, it won't end the match unless you tell it to end the match. So you can keep the match alive. You can do like, redo a new match. Pretty nice. But yeah, I hope this helps you. I hope this gets you excited about scripting for BedWars because there's a lot you could do. This is just the hide and seek version. Inside their site, by the way, there's a lot of examples for mini games. If you just kind of scroll through, like they got a red light, green light example here. So a game of red light, green light, don't move when it's red. So they got a mini game there. They got an example for input service. Start a 10-second tornado event whenever the host presses the X key. Randomly spawn resources around the map. They've given you a ton of examples in here. Create a beach ball above iron blocks. Give all entities dodo birds when the match starts. So pretty much everyone gets a mount. Create a game-winning prompt at the end of an obby. Give all entities UFOs when the match starts. Hating players makes them join your team. So this is basically a game mode of tag. So yeah, check this documentation out. You know, it's actually pretty cool, dude. And if this video hits 100,000 views, I will be making a lot of game modes for this and showing you how I make them. Also, if there's something that you really want to see a tutorial on, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next vid. Peace.